Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Orphan Last, aka Skylar Madison, and today I'm going to go ahead and design a t-shirt. Eventually, I'm going to wind up selling t-shirts and such like that. Now, please forgive me. The first video footage that I had where I just started working on this project, the file got corrupted. And so there's just nothing I can do about that. Now, as you can see, I'm using a drawing that I drew a really long time ago. Now, this original drawing that I'm using as a reference, it was no bigger than a post-it note. For some reason, there came a point where if I was going to draw a picture, I would just draw on something the size of a post-it note. And I think some of the reason is because I felt like, well, the only person that's going to appreciate this is going to be me. I'm the only person that enjoys my artwork, and so that's it. And, you know, lo and behold, years and years later, I have all of this older work that I did in high school and stuff that I've done as an adult that are the size of a post-it note and full-sized and stuff, such like that. That makes excellent material for making a t-shirt, and especially if it's just me doodling, and this originally was a doodle. And as you can see, I've gone ahead and drawn out a much more detailed, much more fleshed out, more interesting designed looking skull that I can work with just with a typical brush tool. And even though this is looking like I'm moving really fast with my mouse, well, not with my mouse, with my graphics tablet and stuff like that, because this is playing at 10 times speed, that is not. I'm actually moving extremely, extremely slow with Krita's Bezier brush tool. And it feels like kind of painting with a paintbrush. It's kind of weird seeing your cursor in a different location from what you're actually drawing, but really honestly, I really actually wish that the cursor would just disappear so that I could just go ahead and just keep navigating it, because, you know, it's distracting. It just keeps my eye looking at the wrong thing. So, but anyways, that's neither here nor there. So yeah, as you can see, I'm pulling out the brush tool. I'm refining the image quite a bit. I'm coming up with different ideas as to how to make this more and more appealing. And such as adding a jawbone and such like that. And I think that, you know, there are times throughout this video, yeah, you saw it right there. It just took it was like a little blink. Basically what I'm doing here is, oftentimes I'm just taking a look at Google Images and just looking at the anatomy of a skull, even though from the very beginning I've already set out to not really be that loyal to the reference. The goal is to make something that resembles a skull. So, if you want it to actually look like not just a doodle, you should probably look at a skull. If you're not using a reference and you're just kind of doodling and such like that, that's great, but it's probably best that if you're going to use it for something that's professional, that you draw on top of your doodle and actually look at some references a little bit, and be loyal to both the reference and also to the doodle that you did. So that's pretty good. Now, also, some things that add visual interest in a picture is line thickness variation. But sometimes you're not doing it just because of, you know, just adding visual appeal. Oh yeah, this line would look really good if it was thicker than this one. If this line it would taper in this specific location versus this other place. Some people do it strategically. I haven't done this first technique, before, even inside of this video I haven't done this, but Jim Lee, who in my opinion is the greatest comic book artist that has ever lived, period, and there will probably never be a better one ever again. The only other person that ever got close to being as good as Jim Lee is Michael Turner, and he died of cancer. But anyways, what Jim Lee does is he actually draws really thin lines wherever the light source is hitting, and then draws thicker lines where the shadows are going to be. And so just with the line thickness, it gives this illusion of depth, and then he cross-hatches things. Like I said, he's a comic book artist, so he cross-hatches. He doesn't shade, even though cross-hatching is basically shading with a pen, is basically what it is. The other time that you would use, the second way that I think exists out there for you to use line variance, the thickness of your lines, is where something is basically above another object. You need to have the object that's above, like object number 1 is on top of object number 2. Object number 1 should probably have thicker lines. Now here's another image, and I'm not really quite sure how it pans out, to be honest. I'm kind of not sure if this really works. Now, the original doodle that's oriented around what I'm working on the screen right now, basically it happened like the day after I drew the first doodle that you saw on the screen, that I kind of refined into those 3 skulls. And I really liked having the teeth of the skull being all elongated, and I thought to myself, you know, what if they were like noodles? Wouldn't that be cool if the teeth were like intertwining with one another and such like that? And I still really like that idea, and I really think that the second doodle that I made in this series, and oftentimes when I wind up, you know, sketching something, I do things in a series. If I wind up drawing an angel, I just go on a little bit of an angel kick for a while and draw like 5 or 6 angels and call it good at that point. But, you know, this turned out looking really good as a doodle, and you know, I think it has every right to be a t-shirt, but it's not necessarily this t-shirt. Maybe the stuff that I'm working on here should probably be, it's just a different t-shirt. Or maybe I can have 3. Okay, I can have one with the original 3 skulls that I drew out. Okay, that sounds cool to me. And then another version with all of these, the skulls with the noodle teeth, and the 3 skulls all together. And then the third version just being the noodle-toothed skulls and such. Basically, I picked the specific skulls that worked in the composition. Now, if you actually looked at just the doodle that I made originally and the second doodle, if you actually looked at them, there were a lot more skulls in those doodles. But the only ones that worked in the first one were those 3. And here I'm also inside of the second doodle, I'm trying to find a way how to get them to work together inside of the composition. And so that meant, oh well, I should probably draw out yet another skull with noodle teeth and such like that. And and that's without any sort of doodle as a reference. And that's actually that one that I drew just to the right of yeah, well, you get it. The one that I drew without the reference of a doodle or anything like that wound up being my favorite one of the noodle appendage, or noodle-toothed skulls. I'm sorry. I just... There's only so many times that I can say noodle tooth, noodle whatever, saying noodle, until I just start feeling as if I can't take myself seriously, which is probably a good thing. But anyways, yeah, like sometimes, working on different layers, it really helps to keep the consistency of your lines. It really does, because you're able to treat objects that you've drawn previously, you're able to treat them as if they're transparent, and you can just draw right through them, and then you can go ahead and erase what you've already drawn, where they wind up contradicting. You can basically stop treating them as if they're transparent. I don't know if I'm making sense now, but hopefully I am. What I have noticed is this Bezier brush that I have actually become quite fond of throughout the course of this video, actually, while making all of the footage for it. I love this tool. However, I just gotta say, there's something about it. It takes a lot of processing power or something. There are times where I wind up waiting 30 seconds just to make my next brush stroke, or let's say I need to press Control Z several times. It could take me upwards towards 2 minutes to be able to do that, and then it winds up being like 20 seconds for each time that I need to press Control Z. And sometimes I'll go to draw another line, and then I need to wait 30 seconds for it to show up. And that can get really frustrating. Krita 4 is set to release next week. I'm really looking forward to that. I really hope that they get whatever issues that happen to be existing that get Krita to just bog down the way it does. I hope that they've done something to help improve upon the stability of this program and its reliability to work on a professional workflow where you can actually finish something on a deadline. And yes, this program is used professionally by plenty of people, but even still, how good does your computer have to be in order for you to be able to use it on a deadline? And I mean, you might be able to forgive it just because it's still able to pop out good quality, and because it, at least this is kind of a review of version 3.3.3. You may be able to forgive it for all of its faults with it bogging down and all that, because it just has such excellent tools and such like that. I mean, I definitely feel like that to some extent, but if you're on a deadline, let's say someone is paying you, how many hours can you really honestly, like, without losing your job, let's say, oh yeah, this image took me this much time for me to finish? Well, in all likelihood, he won't believe you, and so how many hours do you need to dock yourself because you're using Krita? And so that was my thoughts while working on this image. If I was working for someone, there would be probably a number of hours that I would have to dock myself, just simply because, it's just too much. And, I am thinking about buying what should be something like an $11 program and playing with it. And, I mean, it's $11. Now, I don't think that I'm going to abandon Krita necessarily, because I like Krita. I'm sure there's always going to be a reason for me to come back to it. But $11, like that's nothing. I mean, whenever I need to use Krita, I'll use it. Whenever I need to use this other program, I'll use that. That's my thoughts. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times if you're going for a cheap program, you're lucky to be able to get it at $20, and $20 is a reasonable price for software. It truly is. I mean, like, if you're scoffing at $20, just look at Photoshop, and they charge a lot. And most of the time, you don't even own the program. And I think that's ridiculous. Like, if you're going to pay money for something, you should own it, especially if it requires an installation of some sort. No, you should own it, pure and simple. Now, we're coming up on the end of the video, and so, like I said earlier, I'm thinking about having 3 different renditions of the t-shirt. One that has all the skulls on it, the noodly toothed ones and the ones with the straight teeth, and then one that has nothing but, just the noodle tooth people. And then one that happens to have the straight tooth ones. Just 3 different renditions. So I actually like this version. The composition is working for me quite a bit, and so no complaints there. It's just that the idea of me kind of hodgepodging together the compositions of 2 different doodles kind of gets to me a little bit. But these 3 stand on their own very strongly, and I think that these 3 would look really good on a t-shirt with an asymmetrical design. Anyways, guys, if you guys actually have anything to weigh in on what type of t-shirt that you guys want, just feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. I'm all ears. I'm interested in what you guys have to say, because, like, 3 different renditions of this t-shirt. Anyways, so that pretty much concludes it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you didn't like it, please like, share, and subscribe anyways. There's a lot of work that goes into making these videos. And so if you'd like to take a look at any of my other videos, feel free to click on any of them that are appearing on the screen right now, and have a good day.